Today I'm going to help you know where you belong when it comes to your body type. I believe by the time you get out of this class lesson, you're going to be knowing where you belong to when it comes to the different body types that we have. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Wanjiru Kariuki. I create content around personal branding, professional and business etiquette, image management, and any other topic that will help you become a confident person. Feel free to subscribe and become part of this confident family. Now, if you're a returning subscriber, guys, I want to say that I appreciate you very much. I don't take it for granted, and I'm so grateful that you find it meaningful to come and support me in this channel. Now, let's get into our topic for today. Our video for today will be very exciting in the sense that I'm going to be teaching you guys, like literally I'll be teaching you, and that's the reason you're seeing me here with a pen and with my whiteboard here, because I'm going to be talking to you about how to determine your body type. If you've been following me for a while, then you know that among the first videos I did were about different body types, and this video is actually a build-up of those particular videos, because as you go through the comment section, you're going to realize that people were asking me, how can I know my body type? Like, yes, you know the different body type. You know there's a pear, you know there's an hourglass, you know there's a, you know, an inverted triangle, a triangle body shape. You know all those body types, but how do you categorize yourself when it comes to those body types? So people were asking me to help them know which body types they belong to, so that they can be able, you know, to dress accordingly, or even to know where they belong to when it comes to the different body types. And that's bring us to our video for today. So today I'm going to help you know where you belong when it comes to your body type. From now henceforth, I believe that you're going to be dressing according to your body type. I believe by the time you get out of this class lesson, you're going to be knowing where you belong to when it comes to the different body types that we have. And without wasting time, let's get into our video. For this video, there are things that you need, and the first thing that you need is a pen. I hope that you're having your pen there. I hope also you're having your notebook, because it's going to help you record what we are going to do today. So the other thing that you need is actually a tape measure. If you don't have one, please buy one. Maybe you can buy it on your way home. You can buy it from a shop, from any tailor shop, from I mean, these things are sold out there, so I can't tell you exactly where to buy them, but I know if you go to maybe a shop or a place that they sell them, they are going to sell you a tape measure, and it's not very expensive. I think it's something that you will get with around $2 or even less. So the other thing that you need for this video is actually a tape measure, and let's proceed with our video. To determine your body type, the first thing you need to do is to know the measurements of your shoulders. Shoulders, very important. The other thing that you need to know measurements of is your bust area, or your bust. The other part that you need to know your measurement of is your waist. And our last but not least measurement that you require is your hip area, or your hips. All right, so that is what we are going to be working with for our video today. The other thing that you need for this particular video, which I forgot to mention, is that you're supposed to do it when you're naked. Yes, you're supposed to lock yourself in a room and do this when you're naked, because when you're naked, you're going to get accurate results. You're going to get accurate measurements, and that is what we want here. Of course, I wouldn't have come into this space when I'm naked, and that's the reason that I'm in my tights and also my very fitting top, so that when I'm doing this video, it's just going to give you an idea of how you're going to do it on your own. So don't worry that I've worn these fitting outfits. Don't worry that I'm in clothes. Of course, I wouldn't have come here when I'm naked, so we're going to work with this. I'm assuming at this point you have everything that you require. You have your tape measure, you have your notebook, you have your pen, and you're naked in your room. So let's get into the actual video of how you're going to determine your body type. And I also hope that you have written the above, because they're going to help us in measuring, they're going to help us in determining our body type. So I hope that you have clearly written your shoulders, your bust, and your waist. And now let's do the actual measurement. When it comes to your tape measure, you can choose to use the centimeter area, or alternatively you can choose to use the inches area. For this particular video, we are going to use the inches area just to simplify everything and to get straight to the point. All right, so we are going to start with our shoulders. This is how you do it. You're going to stand very straight. Okay, you're going to stand very straight, and you're going to take the inch region, and you're going to place the 0 point at the very edge of your shoulder, and the other one at the very edge. And so you're going to read what it's saying, the broadest part of your shoulder from edge to edge. What does it say? And in my case here, it says that I'm 17 inches. I don't know whether to come near. I don't know whether it will record that. So my shoulders are 17 inches. Right? I hope you can see that clearly. So the length of my shoulders is 17 inches, and that is what we are going to be working with. Now, the other thing that we're going to come to is the bust area. And for your bust area, you're going to select your fullest part of your bust. So you're going to take the tape measure, put it around you. You're going to use the fullest part of your bust area. And it should not be so tight, so leave some space. Leave some space to, you know, it should not be too snug. And in my case, if you can see this clearly, I don't know whether it will record this, but my bust area is 37 inches, okay? That's 7 inches. That is for my bust area. And now I'm going to come to my waist area. Now, for you to be accurate on where your waist is, because I'm sure somebody will be confused on whether to use the lower waist or the high waist, you should use your high waist, and your high waist falls just slightly above your navel. It's your narrowest part of your waist. So this is what we are working with, just slightly above the navel area. And if you're naked, you're going to get a very accurate results. But for the sake of this video, so again, it should not be too tight. You should be able to, you know, like rotate the tape measure this way to ensure that it's not tight. If you can see, my waist is 30 inches, and that is what I'm going to write here, 30 inches. Are we together, class? I hope you're enjoying this video up to this point. Now, you have written, you have measured your waist, and now let's come to the hips. For your hips, you're going to use the fullest part also, okay? Like the fullest part of your hips, that is what you should use. So round. Again, it should not be too tight. It should not be too tight. It should just the tape measure should go round or should rotate freely. So in my case, my hips are 44 inches. All right, so I hope you have those measurements. Do you have your measurements? Are you following this class? I hope up to this point you're following up, and that is the first step for you to know your body type. taking your measurements, ensure that they are as accurate as possible. Ensure you have taken them without clothes so that you can have the most accurate measurements for you to determine your body type. Now, let's go to the next step. I hope we are together up to that point. We clearly have our measurements, and because my whiteboard is very small, allow me to first delete all these. Not really everything, but let me just show you how we'll do it so that we can proceed. So we are going to have my shoulders as 17. We are going to have my bust area as 37. All of them are in inches. And we're going to have my waist, which will be represented by W, will be 30. And we will have my hips, which is 44. I hope that is clear. This is to allow us to go to the next step of this lesson class. All right, so all this is in inches, yeah? So I can put a bracket over there and say they are all in inches. All right, are we together? From our videos on body types, if you haven't watched that video, I believe it will be a good space for you to start, for you to understand this one, because it's going to help you know the different characteristics when it comes to the different body types. And for the different body types, I'm just going to mention that we have the main ones. We're going to be working with the main body types. The first body type will be an apple. The second body type will be a pear. The third body type will be an hourglass. An hourglass, so we have an apple, we have a pear, we have an hourglass, and we have a rectangular body shape, which will be represented by that. So this is apple, pear, so in this video, we're going to be working with the main body types. We're just focusing on the main ones. There are other body types. After some time, maybe I'll do a video about the other body types. But for the sake of simplicity, for the sake of understanding, let's deal with the main body types. So now, we said that an apple body type is determined by having a heavier or a bigger upper body. And this is shoulders and your bust. So our shoulders for S and bust area. So these ones, when it comes to an apple, they are the biggest. And then the smallest when it comes to an apple is the hips. When it comes to the apple, they are defined by small hips, yeah? So the hip area is the smallest. So the upper body, including the waist, they have a big waist, they have a big bust, and they have big or broad shoulders. That is what defines an apple. Now, when it comes to a pear is like the opposite of an apple. For the pear, the hips happens to be the largest area, okay? Their waist, shoulders, waist, and bust as the smallest. Sorry guys. So shoulders, waist, and bust, this is the smallest, and hips area being the biggest. So for the apple, it's the shoulders and the bust. We can add the waist over here. So for your understanding. So on the hourglass happen to have their narrowest area, or their smallest area happens to be their waist. Let me just write W to be their waist. And then for the hourglass, they have a balanced bust and a balanced hips. That is, the measurements between their bust area and their hips area is more or less the same. And if they are differing, they don't differ so much. Maybe they will differ with 2 or 3 inches. The difference is not too much, but these people happen to have their waist as the smallest area. So for the hourglass, when it comes to, they have a balanced, that is the waist, bust and hips. The shoulders, the bust area, they almost happen to be in the same space here. But when it comes to the waist, this body type is defined by a very small waist. That's what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to the rectangular body shape, these people, when it comes to their bust, their waist, their hips area, they don't differ too much. Like it's almost like a rectangle. Wako hivi, yeah? They're almost like this. And if those areas they are differing, they are not differing with many centimeters, maybe 2-3 centimeters, because these people appear to be equal when it comes to their bust area. The measurements for their bust, their waist, and their hips really don't differ so much. They almost belong to the same place. So we can say that these people almost have the same measurements. Now, we're using me as an example here. We can be able to see that my shoulders, we won't use my shoulders so much here. You can see my shoulders are 17, but we are going to focus on my bust area. My bust was 37, and my waist was 30. And my hips were 44. Clearly from these measurements, we can see that my waist has the least. Let's not focus on the shoulders first. Let's first keep this one away. Let's first ignore the shoulders. Let's work with the bust, the waist, and the hips. Now, from my measurements here, we can see that my waist is the tiniest when it comes to this. So it's likely that I could fall under an hourglass. I could fall under here because of my tiny waist, and I could fall under here. So for me, we can say I fall under those ones, but right now we are not sure where I fall under. There's some math that we need to do to determine whether I'm an hourglass, I'm a pear. Also, the reason why I fall under these two is because, as you can see, my hips is my largest point. Like you can see from the 44 inches, my hips happen to be the largest part when it comes to comparing it with my bust area and my waist. So that's why I'm saying I can fall under these two clearly. All right, we are going to take my bust and my hips, yeah, and we are going to do the difference. Like we are literally going to do 44 minus 37. And the difference between these is 7. And the thing is, before I even come to the difference of my bust area and my hips area, yeah, because we already saw that I have my waist is tiny as compared to these two. All right, so when you're doing these measurements, if for example you're wondering whether you're an hourglass or a pear, you will only be a pear if the difference in inches between your hips and your bust area is 7 and above. 7 actually, ignore this one. Before we even come to this one, just ignore it. If in inches area, if your inches, the difference is something between 7 and above, 7 and above, then you fall under a pear. But if it's anything below 7, for example, if my difference between here was like 6 or 5, then I would have been a perfect hourglass. But now, because I'm in the middle, I'm between 7 and 7 is the one that we are looking into. So anything beyond 7 and above, then I'll be a pear. Anything below 7 and below, I would have fallen under an hourglass if we are comparing that. So it's safe for me to say that I'm actually a pear. Yeah, it's safe for me to say that I'm actually a pear. But in any case, if for example I reduced in my hips and maybe my hips were like 43 and I had 6 here, then I would have fallen under an hourglass, because that means my bust area and my waist area, that is my bust area and my waist area, will almost be the same when it comes to inches, or the difference will not be more than 7. So that makes me fall under an hourglass. Now, so we can safely say this is what we were looking when it comes to me. This is what we were comparing with, and the fact that the difference between my bust and my hips area is 7, then I automatically fall under a pear, meaning that my hips are the largest area when it comes to my body type. So if it's a pear, it means that now their hips will always be the largest part, and it will always be above with 7 inches and above, anything between 7 inches and above. For the other body types is, for example, let's assume that my bust area was something like 40 And maybe my waist was something like 37. And maybe my hips were something like also 37. So if we're using that as an example, we can clearly see that the bust area is the largest area, right? So I'm using this as a simplicity. I'll come to the shoulders. Also, if for example, your broadest part of your body was like, let's say 40, or it came to something like 30, we can clearly see that this person already has very broad shoulders, and this person also has a very big bust. And when it comes to the waist, if you see, the difference between the bust and the waist area is just 3 inches, so they are more or less the same. And then if you look at this person, their waist area and their hips, probably the hips are even 39, nothing much, like. But you can see that the bust area and the shoulder area is the biggest for this particular person. So this automatically makes this person to fall under an apple, where an apple is defined by broad shoulders, a big bust, a big waist, and very small hips. So the hips happens to be like their least or their smallest, yeah? So the hips here happens to be the smallest. So I think here we can work with something like maybe this person has yeah, we can have the hips there as 39 and maybe the waist as 38 or something, yeah, 38, something close to that. So most people who fall under apple, the hips are the smallest, and then when it comes to their bust area, when it comes to their waistline, these people are defined by a heavy top. So that could be like an example of what they could measure. Now, for a person who's rectangular, because this is the body part that we have not looked into, we said that an hourglass will have their smallest area as their waist, yeah, and their bust and their hips almost balancing. Let's say, for example, her hips were 40, then her bust will be 40, and then maybe they will have like a waist of 28 or a waist of 26, a very small waist, because again, we said an hourglass is defined by a very small waist. Now, when it comes to a rectangular, really the measurements between the bust area, the waist area, and also the hips area does not differ so much. So if we are looking maybe into a rectangular person, yeah, probably they have a bust of let's say 36, and maybe a waist of 34, and maybe their hips are around 36 and 35. Let's even say that they are 35. As much as this person has their waist being the smallest area, you can see that the difference is not much. It's only 2 inches. So we cannot make this person to fall under an hourglass. They cannot fall under an hourglass because, as you can see, the differences in their inches is not so much. So this person automatically falls under a rectangular body shape, as you can see, because when it comes to the difference in inches between the bust area, between the waist area, and between the hips area, the difference is not too much because the difference is only 2 inches. So this person who's in a rectangular body, they don't have like, there's no much difference when it comes to their inches. They are more or less, they have that kind of blocked body shape or a rectangular body shape. So the difference won't be much, and that's how you are going to know what body type you are in. So guys, up to this point, I hope that you're understanding what I'm telling you. I hope by now you have an idea. If you take these measurements, if you use your measurements and try to calculate, if the difference is anything between 7 and above, then you automatically know maybe you fall under a pair. For example, between your bust and your hips, if the difference is anything between 7 and above, then you automatically fall under an hourglass. If the difference is less than 3, because we're using 3, like 3.5 is like half of 7, right? This is like half of 7. So if the difference is anything below 3.5, around 3.5 and below, then you automatically know maybe you fall under this. You can remember I told you to ignore the shoulders. As you saw with the inches, the shoulders came to 17 inches. And that is because I used edge to edge. You get, like I used shoulders. For the shoulders I used edge to edge. So what you're supposed to do here, like for me, you remember I found that the reason I told you to leave the shoulders, it's because it's a bit complicated. Not really complicated, but what we did, like for me, we got 17 from edge to edge. What I'm supposed to do is that I'm supposed to multiply by 2 to get 34 for me to be able for my measurements to be able like to fall in the same, because as you can remember, I measured from here to here. The whole idea is to measure round, yeah, but when I do it round, it might not be so accurate. So what I do is that I take edge to edge and I multiply it by 2. So for a person who's like an apple, if they got, for example, if they got 20, they're supposed to multiply it by 2 to get 40. And so for that particular person, we are going to see that maybe her shoulders are the widest part. So that's why I told us to ignore that. And so we have focused on this because it's more simpler to explain to you. But if you want it to be so accurate to even involve the shoulders, then that is exactly what you're going to do. You're going to use edge to edge measurements, or you can have somebody do it round and then you multiply by 2 when it comes to the shoulders. Now guys, we come to the end of our lesson today, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have understood everything. I hope this video was very insightful, and I hope it's going to help you know how to determine your body type, or how you can measure your body type to know where you fall to when it comes to the 4 main body types, which is the apple, the pear, the hourglass, and the rectangular body shape. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed that class. And now we come to the end of this video, and I'm so grateful that you're tuned in up to this point. I really appreciate you coming here. If you haven't subscribed, kindly do so. Go click the notification button so that you can always be notified of any video that I'm putting out there. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye bye, and may God bless you.